here at Rural Roads, it's so important to us that all of our presentations start with an acknowledgement of our traditional lands. So Rural Roads University is located on the traditional lands of the Cosetzum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. There has been long history of teaching, learning, and gathering on these lands. And it's with great gratitude that we live, learn, work, and play on the beautiful lands of the Cosetzum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. As mentioned, my name is Selena Kunar, and I'm an education advisor here at Rural Roads University. And I am joined by some wonderful VA Justice students who are going to tell us more about their experience in the program. So we'll hear more from Kate and David in a few slides here. But a big thank you to both of you for being here today. So you've learned the tiniest bit about us, but we would love to learn a lot about all of you. So if you feel comfortable, let's take that chat box for a spin. Let us know, where are you joining from? What are you hoping to get out of today's session? And you also can share what sector you're currently in as well. Sometimes it's helpful for us to know this information to make sure that we're sharing what's most relevant to the folks who joined us live today. So while the chat box starts filling up, I'll just quickly go over how we're going to spend the rest of our time together today. So right after this, we're going to quickly swing through what is the VA Justice Program at Rural Roads University. Then we're going to get to the exciting part of today where we're actually going to talk with Kate and David. And then of course, we'll leave questions at the end of time for questions at the end of our session today for questions, conversations, but please, as things come up for you, pop them in the chat box. And speaking of our chat box, I'm going to head over and see who we have joining us today. We have folks, oh my gosh, from all over. Lots of representation from Ontario, Mississauga, Brampton, Kingston. We have Alberta and Saskatchewan joining us from Lethbridge and Gull Lake, Calgary, Lethbridge again. We have Jonathan from the Sunshine Coast, Caitlin from Kelowna, Chloe from Raymond, Alberta. Wow. I'm just continuing to scroll down, and we have so many folks from all across Canada and perhaps internationally as well. So that's pretty fun. Thank you for sharing where you're joining us from, but also what sector you're currently in and interested in moving into. We have lots of folks with backgrounds in military, police foundations, Navy, investigation, public and private, social work, and lots of folks who are currently learning at some of our partner institutions. Fabulous. So please continue popping those in the chat box. And I recommend everyone take a spin of who's in the room. This chat box and this quick check-in, it's a cool way to understand all the different people and all the different backgrounds a program like this brings together. So speaking of a program like this, what exactly is this program? Well, here at Rural Roads, our VA Justice Program provides you with theoretical and real-world foundations necessary to use effective critical thinking in the field of justice studies, but specifically also the fields of criminal justice, human rights, advocacy, conflict resolution, and mediation. So looking at this diagram here, you can see kind of the four quadrants that our program breaks down into. So we look at justice studies through the lens of law, philosophy, human service skills, and social sciences. If you've taken a peek at our website, you may have noticed that we offer our program in a few different ways. So we have something called degree completion. That's for folks who have already completed some level of post-secondary education, typically at one of our partner institutions, but not necessary, and who are coming to Rural Roads to complete their Bachelor of Arts degree. So you can do that by doing an on-campus program, which will be 1 year in length, or you can pop into a blended offering, which is 2 years in length. And something we're developing for 2022 is a full undergraduate degree in our BA Justice Studies. So that would be fully on campus and be 4 years in duration. But that's just a little tidbit. If you like to know more about that full 4-year undergraduate degree, I can make sure to share a link to a coming webinar that'll explore that in more detail. Today, we're going to focus a bit more on those degree completion options. So, kicking off with the on campus. Of course, in these extraordinary times, we are not traditionally on campus, though Kate is actually part of our on-campus intake right now. So she'll tell us a little bit more about what on-campus looks like in these COVID times. In non-COVID times, here's some details. So students will typically be taking 5 courses at one time, with short breaks in between. And we divide this 1-year program up into 4 terms. Generally, your courses will be 11 weeks in length, but check out the program schedule for more information on that. Off the top, what you'll need to know is that you are completing 5 courses at a time. Generally, your class time would be, when you're on campus, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, though of course, there'll be times outside of class hours where you'll be expected and needed to connect with your teams for team assignments in some ways as well. For the on-campus program, we don't have full-time undergraduate housing available on campus, and we like to share that right away. That said, if you visit our accommodations page or connect with our offices, we can get you more information about off-campus housing. So let's click on over to learn more about the blended program. So our blended program is 2 years in length. And blended means that while a majority of your study will be done online, you will come onto campus for a few learning intensive residencies. So our 2-year program, we chop up into 5 distinct sections, where in your first section and in that third section, you come on over to Victoria and visit us here. When you are learning in your online space, courses will typically run for about 9 weeks back to back, though sometimes you will have a short break in between those courses. When you come to our campus, you'll be coming twice throughout your program. Once in your year 1 for 3 weeks, and then once in year 2 for 2 weeks. And for these short-term on-campus stints, we do have accommodation available, though it is on a first-come, first-served basis. I'll highlight here that Royal Roads was previously a military college, and that is where our dorm rooms get their inspiration. So they are no 5-star hotel, but they are great to be on campus and immerse in your learning with your cohort members. I live here in Victoria, and when I did a learning residency with Royal Roads, I did elect to stay on campus for that reason, just to meet my cohort members. But it is not a requirement for you to be on campus. So you're welcome to be located off campus as well. But for those folks who are coming outside of BC, outside of Victoria, we just want you to know that there is accommodation space available for you. Okay, we've given a tiny snapshot into what the BA Justice is and some different ways that we offer it here. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's connect with our students. So Kate, did you want to kick us off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Ulaku Lispiangava, Nana Kimilgan, Nana Tiach, Eva Adams, Kudrak Mutuyunga, Nanuna Klakraman. So hi everybody, my English name is Caitlin Herchak, or Kate, and my traditional name is Alyssa P. I'm Inuk from Kudrak, Quebec, with ties to Nunavut and Anuntsiavut. And I live in Victoria on the Kwankin territory, and I'm currently a Justice Studies student. As well as I wear other hats too. I also work part-time at an international development organization called VIDEA, and we run the International Indigenous Youth Internship Program. I'm the Deputy Chair of the Canadian Commission for UNESCO's Youth Advisory, and I'm currently on Paktitut's Inuit Women Gender Equality Council.
Amazing, Kate. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to learn about your experience here at Raw Roads and how that's translated into all the different professional and personal areas you've shared with us already. We also have David joining us. That said, I'm not sure if we were able to navigate some technical difficulties today. So, David, are you with us? Check, check. It doesn't look like David's been able to connect quite yet, but if he is joining us, we'll make sure to get acquainted with David and learn about his experience as well. That said, we are very, very lucky to have you with us, Kate. And before we get into these questions here, I'd love to learn about why did you pick this program? Why did you feel it was the right time to start learning and be a part of this BA Justice Studies program here at RRU?
For sure. I started my education journey at Camosun, actually in the Indigenous Family Support Worker program. And so I did that and I graduated and I took a year off. And David's actually a really good friend of mine. And we met while working up in Quebec together in two Indigenous communities. And after we were working together, he's like, I'm gonna go do this program. You should look into it, all this kind of thing. And I said, yeah, sure. I need to take a break from school. um, and then I was born and raised in Victoria. And so then I came back after working in Quebec and met up with David again. And then again, he's just like, you have to do this. You have to do this. You're going to love it. And I was like, I hummed and I hawed. And then I thought of the Canadian context with it being an Indigenous woman and like the calls to justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And then my mom said, you really should do this if this is the career you really think of, trying to make an impact and a positive change. And I said, fine, you got me. And I filled out the application, and it's the first time I've ever applied to university. And I just sat there like this, and I was like, oh my goodness, I just applied to university. What am I doing? And I was very happy to become accepted. I applied under the flexible admission because of my studies being different, and as well as my international experience. And then I got in and I said, holy heck, I guess we're going to do this. And that's what brought me to the program, is basically peer pressure and wanting to make a difference in my community.
That is awesome, Kate. And your story is, we hear that sometimes for folks kind of, I don't know if grudgingly is the word, but you go, oh, okay, I need to go back to get to where I want to go. Okay, let's do it. Now that you're here, now that you're learning in this program, particularly online program in these COVID times, what has been the most surprising or meaningful part of your experience so far?
Even though we're all online and some of my classmates are in Alberta, and connecting through that way has been really interesting, and just we're still making really positive friendships. There's a friend, I made a friend in my cohort. She was a part of my team because each semester you have different teams you get to work within. So you get to work with at least everybody once, which is really nice. But one of my friends that I made, her and I talk on the phone still every day, even though we're in different teams, and still builds that sense of community and someone you can talk through the curriculum that you're learning with, which is really important. And also the instructors are super easy to accessible and helpful. And one thing that was really surprising, it was how fast people get back to you, and you're like, oh right, because we're all at home just waiting for someone else to email us back. And everybody's very, very supportive. One of the instructors I had last term really helped me create a speech that I had to give. His name is Ken, and he was super awesome. And because I didn't know who else to contact, and I was like, okay, let's email Ken, even though he taught crime and crim theory, and he was just like, oh my gosh, Kate, I'm so happy to be here and support you and help you. And just, it's a really positive learning environment.
Oh, that's awesome. At Railroads, our faculty really are something special. They're what we call scholar practitioners. So, as I'm sure you know, folks who are not only academic experts, but out in the world putting into practice what they bring into our classrooms. So they add a really wonderful dynamic to, theory and practice. It's not separate, it's not here, not there. You get to have that happening at the same time. You shared a little bit about a way that already happened to you with chatting about Ken's support in putting together a speech. Were there other ways that you're learning so far, this program, your cohort, our faculty, has impacted your personal or professional growth?
Yeah, within the program, we get to do either like a practicum placement or a research paper. And I just got my practicum placement. I'll be doing my practicum with the United Nations Association in Canada under their Building Young Entrepreneurs program. So getting to work with multi-barriered youth in entrepreneurship skills, and to learn more about international law and international development. I was very fortunate that I got to go to COP25 in 2019, and I still kept in touch because I went with that organization, and I reached out. I said, "Hey, I need a practicum placement," and they said, "Sold! Like, we're happy to have you." And then, which is really cool too, because then my classmate, that's one of my really good friends, is actually going to be the practicum student at the organization I work at, and it just kind of that linear learning together. And it just widens your network, and you get to like look at things differently, like through like a justice lens or whatever lens your personal experience brings to.
Oh my gosh, that is such a cool practicum. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you're interested in that one? How was it? I don't know if easy is the right word, but navigating that process of getting a practicum placement and being accepted.
It was really helpful that Sue Brown, who's like one of the faculty members, a part of the program, like would hold like weekly sessions on like how to build up your resume or like what good interviewing skills you can have, and like how to like form these types of like professional relationships that make you successful, like applying for a practicum or interviewing for a practicum and accepting it. And she was always very helpful and a very good support, and very encouraging. I was very fortunate in my last program I did at Camosun. I had to do 2 practicum placements. So I was very familiar with the process of interviewing and applying. And I was very interested in building young entrepreneurs because like I do think it's very critical for youth to have solid and sustainable employment, especially those who face multiple barriers. And I wanted to be a part of it. So youth, I believe that like if youth can see it, then they can be it. So like if they see like a young Indigenous person like in this field, then they feel comfortable enough to start to look into that field too.
We had talked a little bit about your experience being an Indigenous student in this program. Did you want to talk a little bit about that? And you had used a word, co-teaching. Oh, I love that. Um, how has that been for you?
It's been um it's been a really interesting learning experience, a little bit of a learning curve. I was raised by my mom and my stepdad, who are both non-Indigenous. My Indigenous ancestry comes from my father. And so I grew up in this different kind of way, and then did a lot of reclamation work of my culture and my language and my kinship. And then the program I came from at Camosun was strictly Indigenous. And then going into a new setting that was multicultural was a little bit of a culture shock at first, because I realized like not everybody has the same worldview or understanding, or were exposed to similar things that I've been exposed to. So, or think about things the way I have to think about things. And so I find that it's been really beneficial to like work in those small groups and like have these deep dive conversations into like decolonization and reconciliation of the justice system. Because also at the time I used to work for Reconciliation Canada, and I got to like bring in Chief Bobby Joe, who's like a really lovely elder, and like he spoke to my group about the criminal justice system and Indigenous people and the impacts of residential school and things like that. And just like co-teach with my classmates, because it's like everybody's a teacher and everybody's a learner, right? And the instructors have been very supportive of that as well, of like I'm going to incorporate like QI principles, like Inuit traditional knowledge, into my papers. And they were like, oh, that sounds really cool. That's really different. And I said, yeah, because there's many different ways we can view justice and how we can execute justice and what that looks like to everybody else, and how justice systems have been in place since time immemorial. And sometimes that needs to be weaved in with academia.
I love that. And that was your experience, at Railroads, particularly with having the flexible admissions pathway as well. We try to be really cognizant of making sure that the cohort members, the classrooms, and the professors, there's no sage on the stage, if you will, that it is this, as you put, this circular learning. I have a few more questions, but I would love for those folks who are online with us, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box. This is your time to get your questions answered about, the application process, the program, anything like that. And, I'm taking a peek at our registration list, and we have a lot of questions around how has your experience been doing this online? We have a lot of folks who I'm noticing were kind of in your situation where, they're really excited about doing this on campus, but they recognize, probably not going to be starting on campus this week. So what does online learning look like?
Online learning looks like there's like a thing called a Moodle, and we get to log in, and you can see like all your classmates on the side, and you get to see your class schedule. And then there is like it's called Collaborate, which is like Zoom, but it's like very specific to our RU. And so it looks often a lot like this, and like the instructors will like share their PowerPoint. And there's a chat box, and my cohort is actually fairly shy. We're very quiet, but like the chat box is like always where there's really interesting dialogue happening. And it's kind of nice to be online for me, I feel, because then like I can wear my pajamas and no one will really know, right? Or I can be eating and I won't be disrupting other people because other people can't hear or see me. It does get like a little strenuous, I find, on the eyes, but it's really important to like listen to your body and to take breaks and drink water and like get up and walk around. I recommend that like if you're taking it online, that you have like a scheduled time where you go out and do like some physical activity, just to like make sure that your space isn't just like surrounded by textbooks and like papers and things like that. Especially though too, like a lot of us have like work, home, and school that's all in one place now. So I also recommend like breaking up your living situation as best as you can to get like your mental focus. Like, okay, I'm sitting at my desk and right next to me is my research methods textbook, right? And I live off an agenda too. So like I have like 5 different calendars and I have everything in there because I have to. But always making sure that like, because things can come up fast when you're online. So just to make sure that like you're prepared for it.
Can you tell us a bit about, I guess, your interaction with your cohort members or assignments and things, your experience moving through that part of the program online? I'm noticing in our registration page, folks are really interested in knowing more about what does teamwork look like when you're in an online format?
Yeah, for sure. So when you get broken into teams, you have also a team's coach. And so you have like one meeting with the team's coach, and her name is Julia, and she's super lovely. And she really like facilitates a conversation amongst your team of like, what is everybody's like collective goals within this semester or like certain classes, to really make us feel comfortable that we can exchange our ideas with one another. And there's like at least one team assignment within every class. And sometimes it's paper, sometimes it's presentation. Obviously, like I recommend like using lots of Google Docs. All of us have lots of group chats that we're a part of. And it really depends on like how introverted or extroverted you are too, which is completely fine. Within my team, we like to get together, we just hang out online and just like talk about other things to build that kind of sense of friendship before we really get into like heavy tasks. And because sometimes it can be overwhelming if you don't really know somebody and you're like, let's write a paper together. And I never know what you actually really look like. But it can be fun as long as if you want to make it fun, or you can be very like work oriented, and that's fine for you as well. And yeah, I just encourage folks to like really be open and receptive of like what the team process can look like for you.
I couldn't echo you more, Kate. Absolutely. And Outroll Roads having that cohort model where you're going to start your program with a core group of learners, then you're actually going to move through with those people all the way to the end. Being open to that process early on, that getting to know you stage, even though you're kind of just like, okay, man, we have a paper, like we just got to crack this out. It makes the experience as a whole much more full.
Mhm.
I'm going to pop into the chat box because we have lots of great questions, both for you and for our enrollment advisors who are online as well. So if I skip over a question, no, it's because we have Christine in our chat box replying as well. So let me just scroll up to the top. We had a question about touching base on class schedules and prices. So I think in the chat box, Christine has provided a link to the program page. And on that page, you can find the course schedules and corresponding to intake dates as well. And if we have time at the end of the session, or if anyone wants to stay on, I'm happy to screen share and show those as well. And same for prices. I imagine Christine will pop a link in shortly as well. So, Kate, we had a question for you from Robbie. Will your practicum be online as well? Was that a part of the process, or is that more dependent on where you were choosing to be placed?
It's definitely dependent on where you're choosing to be placed, especially also too right now with the pandemic. So yes, my practicum will be online. And also it's because there's a time difference as well, because the organization I am practicum placement at is in Ottawa.
Gotcha. Okay. We have a question from NJ. What do you enjoy most about university?
I enjoy the critical learning that university brings. And some of our teachers are like super enthusiastic about critical thinking, and like that's something that means a lot to me, because I bring a different perspective, right? And so teachers that really encourage critical thought and analysis is really exciting to me, even though it kind of sounds a little bit boring to others.
Kate, we often hear that, people aren't telling you what to think. People are helping navigate different ways of thinking. And that's kind of a new way to go about things. So I love that you highlighted that. We have some more questions in the chat box, probably better suited for Christine. So Sebastian asking for more information about accommodations for military personnel. Absolutely, we have a page on our website dedicated to providing you more information, as well as education advisors and enrollment services folks who have information specific to military personnel at their fingertips. So I imagine Christine will share that link. And if not, feel free to anyone reply to the follow-up communications coming after this webinar. I'm happy to connect you to anyone on campus who can help you out. We have a question for Brooklyn. Is there an option to take classes on campus at the institution we're already in? That's a great question, Brooklyn. And that's probably a question that will be best suited for our program head, as things like this can sometimes come up on case by case basis. So, again, feel free to flip me an email after this session and I can get you guys connected. Or, Christine, if you have any information, and you might have already put that in the chat box below, please do. Okay. Oh, and Robbie, thanks so much for this. So it was put in the schedule for the program starting August 30th that the residence phase for this year is also online. Yes. So prior to yesterday's announcement here in BC, there was an intention for folks to be coming back on campus for September. That said, there's some program areas who are deciding, to make sure that this is as smooth an experience as possible, we're going to continue online for a little bit longer. So please check out our program schedules or connect with our offices, and we can tell you a little bit more about what on-campus programs are hoping to come back fully on campus in the near future when we're able, or ones that have already planned a bit further out saying, hey, we're going to be online for a little bit longer. We have a question here from Cameron. I'm in my first year of my diploma program. When should I apply for my transfer? I'm in my final semester or in the summer after I complete my diploma program. That is an awesome question, Cameron. And I'm going to leave that to Christine in the chat box to make sure that you get the most accurate information. We have a question here from Rayanne. I'm curious about what employment prospects look like after graduation. Have you had any experience with that yet? Or do you know what other student experience has been after their education? So I can talk a little bit about this, but Kate, I don't know if you wanted to share a little bit about where you foresee your BA Justice degree taking you.
This is such a great question. I'm also looking forward to your answer. I'm hoping that my education journey doesn't quite stop here, but take a break, and I'm hopefully going to try to get into the BC Human Rights Commission, do some time there, and then I actually will be exploring law school.
Amazing. Very cool. And yes, we have a lot of folks who are interested in pursuing law school next. Actually, within this program and some other programs on campus, we have program heads who law is an area of expertise, despite not having a law school here at Roll Roads. So if you have any questions about where these programs could take you and through that lens, connect with us. And our professors are always eager to chat and help you get a little more information about where that can go. So, talking a little bit about employment opportunities after this program, what's really cool, and I know this is a little segue, but we'll get to job opportunities, I promise. But what's really cool is this program is actually a pathway to some continued education as well. So here at Railroads, we also have our Master of Arts in Justice Studies. We see actually a high number of learners who will end up taking the Master of Arts program a year or two within graduating, which is really cool. That said, we have a lot of folks who do say, okay, I'm going to pause and I'm going to take this into my workplace. So this program is great for folks who already have a field in mind that does require some sort of continued programmed education, at JIBC. So for example, if you're looking to be a sheriff, a probation officer, some sort of first responder, this is a great foundation for continuing on that way. I'm just looking here, looking into some past documents that share a little bit more about actual organizations that our graduates have been a part of. So that way we don't have to talk a little bit, mystically. We can actually tell you, hey, here are some great names. So we have folks who end up being a part of the Criminal Justice Association, the Canadian Council on International Law, the International Police Association. We do have a lot of folks who pursue police services upon graduation, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, Canadian Professional Police Association, and the Police Sector Council. So as you can see, a lot of different policing services there. Again, if you want to connect with our professors, they're a great resource to tell you a little further back. They'll have the folks who've graduated and who are now a couple years out and where they've landed. But what I actually recommend is we can get you connected directly with those folks. So if you want to hear from alumni who graduated this program and are now out in the field, please connect with us. You can hit reply to my email or email Christine directly, as our alumni are always eager to talk to folks and share how this program or any others on our campus help get them to where they are today. So I know I did that when I was looking at a program. I was thinking, wow, this program sounds cool, but where can it take me? And I wanted to hear it from people who got to take in, for lack of better words. So I'm going to jump back into the chat box. We have Ryan sharing a learning module like I have at Niagara College on Blackboard. Absolutely. So Blackboard, Moodle, I'm blanking on what the University of Victoria here uses, but they are all learning platforms and they look relatively alike, but all have very similar functions as well. So I see some more questions here about how we can, if we can project which intakes will be on campus or which intakes will be blended. We have that information on our website now, but I'll leave that to Christine to provide some more information. We have a question here about block transfers. Awesome, Caitlin, thank you. As a student at Algonquin College, in one of the collaborative programs, what I've noticed online is that it counts as block credit transfers. My end goal is to go to law school. I want clarification that at the end of the BA degree completion, I will have the same credential as someone who completed the full BA at Rural Roads. Absolutely. Absolutely. Upon completion of that fourth year or your second year here at Rural Roads, but yes, your parchment will say Bachelor of Arts in Justice Studies, and that is the credential you can move forward with. That's a great question. We get that all the time. Oh, is this a certificate? Is this a diploma? I'm only at Rural Roads for 2 years, but that's why we call it degree completion. You're coming to Rural Roads to complete that degree, and Rural Roads will be your issuing institution. Okay. Oh, great question from Rayanne. And Kate, I might actually ask you about your experience about this. So, are we still able to complete the degree in 1 year for the on-campus option, even if it's delivered online?
Yes, we are still moving ahead. And I saw another question from Devin. How heavy is the course load for students taking 5 classes in the 1-year program? I find that the first 2, I guess they would be quarters, are fairly lighter. You have about three-ish assignments per class. And usually it's 2 individual than 1 team, but I am in the 3rd quarter now, which is a little bit more intensive because it's most of the 4-level courses. And so this is looking a lot like 4 assignments per class, and 2 of them, which are usually team assignments. So it's pretty intensive towards the end.
We do recommend for folks who are looking at that on campus, whether it's on campus or online, the 1-year option, to make sure that you have the time to be moving through 5 courses at a time. So most often our students won't be working because you are full-time learning in class. Because for that 1-year program, what we're essentially doing is condensing your years 3 and years 4 into 12 months. So you are getting the exact same learning, the exact same courses that our 24-month students do as well. We're just crunching it into 12 months. So it's double time for sure. I'm going to pop back into the chat box here. I did a quick scroll down and I see that Christine is on fire answering questions. So what I might do is take a pause and let Christine catch up with all the great questions that are happening here, because I believe we have David with us. So maybe I'll do a check. David, are you out there?
Yes, I'm on a work retreat out in Port Renfrew, so it's very limited Wi-Fi out here, unfortunately. There actually is no cell phone reception where we are, so it's very limited.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for still clicking in and joining us today. Your audio is coming through clear on my end. If for any reason you get dropped off, feel free to click back in.
Okay.
But we've been hearing so much from Kate about her experience, and she actually shared that you guys knew each other before starting the program. Did you want to share a little bit about your journey?
Yes, we met in Munch. Yeah, I would definitely want to share a little bit. Stop me if my audio is not correct, and I'll just take my video off.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the BJS program. I thought it was phenomenal. For myself, it was my first time out of school for 10 years, and then I joined this program, and I wanted to do something that was academically challenging and intense, and it really fit the bill. And I got to learn more about Canada through an Indigenous lens, which was phenomenal, and also through different disciplines of justice, and I like that. And the cohort was kind of split into different groups. So we had everyone from a diverse set of backgrounds. So we had a lot of different perspectives and opinions on subjects. So I just sort of leaned into it because there were people that were so opposite to what I believed, coming from a police officer perspective on a civil case, and you get a community worker's perspective on a civil case, and then you have someone who's been outside of Canada for 10 years examining this from the media perspective. So I really enjoyed the different perspectives on the program, and I thought it was a phenomenal way for me to learn more about justice and social causes in Canada.
That is so cool, David. Thank you for.
Did I all come through?
Yes, it all came through. Your video is a little pixelated, but your audio is coming through clear. May I ask, are you part of an on-campus one-year program, a blended 2-year program? Which program are you moving through?
I finished a 1-year on-campus program.
Ah,
I graduated in August 2020, I believe it was. I would say 2020 was a blur. I started on campus, and due to COVID, things rapidly changed, especially in the 3rd and 4th semester, where we moved online. And that was a really difficult transition from a cohort on campus, seeing each other every day, having those really rich discussions to then transferring online. It was choppy for the 3rd semester, but by 4th semester, we got it down pat. And it was, because Warworlds was based online. So we were able to move to an online format. And probably Kate can speak more about the online format that is now. But yeah, it was a great experience.
oh, that's awesome. I would love to ask you, what was your most surprising or meaningful part of your experience, especially having explored both on campus being on campus and then on campus being online as well?
Um, I really enjoyed networking with my professors. They were just phenomenal human beings off, when they weren't on campus, and having those rich discussions with professors, even after class was over online, I would still stop the professor and have a discussion with them for about 5 or 10 minutes about the assignment, about the work, about what they presented. And I enjoyed that because they were all, I would say, the professors I had, at least more than 2/3 were practitioners. So they were in the field telling us about what was happening in the news that day. And, like 2 months later, they would send us an article about the discussion that we took. I thought that was fantastic. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That real world impact. I'm noticing we have just a few minutes left. So I would love to, a question we got a lot, pose it to both you and Kate is, what would you recommend to someone who's thinking about starting this program? Do you have any insights, tips, tricks, warnings, suggestions? What wisdom can you share with us?
Kate, what did I share with you?
Oh my goodness. I was just thinking the same thing. And I was like, what did you tell me when I started?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you said always to reach out for help, and people always will support you.
Yeah.
And be prepared to be challenged for sure. But that's good. That's a good thing. That means you're growing. And then from a family support worker's perspective, just make sure you listen to your body and you take care of yourself, because sometimes the content can be very challenging.
And I would say you get in what you take out what you put in. So if you really want to follow along with the readings or really want to challenge the professor on something, there's a lot of resources available. You can come away from this program, it's, not really feeling like you've accomplished quite a lot because you're moving in such a fast pace. But I was surprised at the beginning when I didn't know anything about constitutional law. But by fourth semester or third semester, I was reading constitutional law and civil law for fun. And it's because I put in that time at the beginning to learn those concepts. And that's hard coming from a social worker, but uh, and you have to be able to do that and lean into those differences and those tough discussions that you're going to have, because you're going to be in groups of people that you don't want to be with, that you don't align with. But I really learned a lot from that because that's the work world, that's the world that we live in and work in.
That is amazing. Thank you both, David and Kate. I have a few slides will pop up here just for those folks who are asking questions around, what's the next intake? What are your transfer agreement schools? I'll just flash those up quick. And if either of you feel inclined, feel free to pop in the chat box if there's more questions. Oh, actually, we have one question that did come up a few times. What was your favorite course in this program? I know the course codes and titles can be a little hard to remember, but I guess what was your most exciting learning time in this course?
David, what was your favorite?
Um, I'm going to have to say constitutional law because when I got my first paper back after 10 years, it was really humbling to get a 60 and go, oh, got to buckle up here. This is going to be a hard ride. And it was something that I just didn't, it was a really hard struggle to get that 60 up. But by the end of the year, I had the same teacher, and she said she noticed a massive difference in my writing, and having that same professor was really encouraging. A good note to leave on.
Mm, that's tough because I'm
Okay.
currently in classes. So right now I'm taking public policy and justice, international law and organizations, global approaches and philosophies, philosophy and law. And what's the other one I'm forgetting? You can see that. Yeah, I know I'm a really good student.
Conflict mediation.
No, already did conflict mediation. What is the other one? Clearly that's probably not one of my favorites. Um, but so far I did really enjoy crime and crim theory. And right now in my current semester, I'm really enjoying international law and organizations.
Very cool, you guys. Thank you. We got that question over and over. For those folks who took a peek at our program page, and for David and Kate who lived the courses and are living the courses, there's a whole swack of things you will explore. So it's really awesome that different things stuck out for both of you. So I'm going to now share a few more slides. Let me start that up now and make sure that you guys are seeing the right view here. Looking okay? You can see some slides on the screen? Wonderful. Well, for those folks who are wondering, when are the next intakes for these programs? Our degree completion options, both the blended and on-campus, have intakes starting this year. So if you're looking at the blended option for the BA Justice Studies, so that's the 2-year, 24 months, it begins August 30th, 2021, which means you should get your application in by May 30th, 2021. If you're looking at that on campus, so the 1-year option, that'll begin September 7th, 2021, putting your application deadline at June 7th, 2021. And much earlier in the webinar, we gave you a sneak peek of a 4-year degree starting here at Roll Roads. So BA Justice, full 4-year degree, fully on campus. That will start September 6, 2022, putting your application deadline at March 31st, 2022. We had lots of representation from some of our partner institutions. So we'll just quickly flash this. We have transfer agreements with colleges and institutions all across Canada. And if you are currently a learner at a college you see listed here, or one that's not listed here, connect with us and we can let you know if there are transfer agreements and what that exactly means for you. Usually that means that some of the requirements as part of the admissions process are waived because those were already built in the program that you are taking. So sometimes if there's a work experience component, sometimes if there's a requirement of a personal statement, it depends on your institution and the agreement we have with that school. So connect with us and we can help navigate that for you. If you're interested in doing some Googling, you can also Google transfer agreements railroads, and a page comes up where you can type in your school, this program, and put the pieces together. In putting the pieces together, we like to just quickly flash all of the different things we offer within our School of Humanitarian Studies. And that's where this program sits, the Bachelor of Arts in Justice Studies, which you see at the center of this honeycomb. We have further graduate studies in the areas of conflict analysis and management, disaster and emergency management, human security and peace building, and then, of course, justice studies as well. Christine has been on fire in this chat box. She is just one beautiful representation of the enrollment teams we have here on our campus, ready to answer any questions about this program or any others as well. So you can find Christine and her team at learn.more@railroads.ca. And if you're joining us internationally, learn.more.international@railroads.ca is happy to continue the conversation. So that brings us to the end of our webinar today. A big, big thank you to all of you for spending an hour of your time with us today. A big, big, big thank you to both Kate and David for being here and sharing your experiences in the program. It has been so enlightening for me to learn more about the Justice Studies program and all the different ways that you're exploring the world through this program here at Railroads. So if you have any more questions for Kate or David, you'd like to connect with an alumni to chat more about where this program has taken them, please connect with Christine, reply to the communications after this session, and we'll make sure we get your questions answered. Looking in the chat box, we had tons of questions related to admissions. So we have webinars where we talk specifically about, the nitty-gritty of the program, the nitty-gritty of the application process. What does that mean? What is that comprised of? We can always send you a link to that, or we can just walk you through it at learn.more@railroads.ca. So connect with us if you have questions that didn't get answered, because just because we're out of time right now, we're never out of time for you. So thank you all so much for joining us. We wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending when and where you're watching this from. Have a good day, everyone.